Right now, as you're watching this video, there's a proposal being developed inside the Social Security Administration that could fundamentally change how millions of Americans qualify for disability benefits, and the impact could be absolutely devastating for people in their 50s and 60s who are struggling with chronic illness or injuries. We're talking about potentially 750,000 people who could lose their pathway to disability benefits, and this isn't some distant future plan. This is happening right now, behind closed doors, and most people have no idea what's coming. The Trump administration is reportedly considering either eliminating age as a factor entirely when determining disability eligibility, or dramatically raising the age threshold from 50 to 60 years old. Now, if you're thinking this doesn't affect you, think again. Whether you're someone currently receiving disability, someone who might need it in the future, or you have family members who depend on these benefits, what I'm about to explain could change everything about how Social Security disability works in this country. The proposal is still being developed, but sources inside the administration are saying this could move forward quickly, and once these rules change, getting approved for disability benefits could become exponentially harder for hundreds of thousands of Americans who are depending on this safety net. So if you want to understand exactly what's being proposed, who will be affected, why this is happening now, and what you can actually do about it before these changes potentially take effect, you need to stay with me through every single minute of this video. Before we go any further, if you rely on Social Security, SSDI, SSI, or VA benefits, or if you know someone who does, please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. The Social Security Administration is actively working on plans to change how they assess disability eligibility, and the central issue is whether age should continue to be a major factor in determining if someone can work. Now, this might sound technical and boring, but trust me, this is anything but boring when we look at what it actually means for real people. Under the current system, if you're 50 years old or older and you apply for disability benefits, the Social Security Administration takes your age seriously as part of their evaluation. Why? Because common sense tells us that a 55-year-old construction worker with a bad back and arthritis is not going to have the same job opportunities as a 25-year-old with the same conditions. Age matters when we're talking about someone's ability to retrain for new work, to physically handle different types of jobs, and to compete in the job market with younger, healthier workers. The proposals being considered would either eliminate age as a factor completely or raise the current age threshold from 50 to 60. Let me tell you what this means in practice. Right now, if you're in your 50s, dealing with serious health problems, limited education, and decades of physical labor that have broken down your body, Social Security recognizes that it's genuinely harder for you to transition to completely different work. The system acknowledges that age, combined with your medical conditions and work history, creates a legitimate barrier to employment. But if age gets removed from the equation or if the threshold jumps to 60, suddenly you're being evaluated as if age doesn't matter, as if a 55-year-old diabetic with heart problems and limited education has exactly the same employment prospects as someone 30 years younger with the same conditions. Does that sound reasonable to you? Here's where the numbers get really stark and really scary. According to data from the system, almost 42% of disability applicants were found eligible specifically because of their age. Let that sink in for a moment. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people every single year who qualify for disability benefits because the system currently recognizes that age, combined with their other limitations, makes it genuinely impossible for them to sustain employment. If this proposal goes through, those people suddenly don't qualify anymore. Their medical conditions haven't changed. Their work history hasn't changed. Their ability to actually perform jobs hasn't magically improved. The only thing that changes is the government deciding to stop acknowledging the obvious reality that age matters when you're dealing with disability and employability. Reports indicate this change could affect up to 750,000 people. Now, we need to be clear about what affecting means in this context. For some people, it means they won't qualify for benefits they desperately need. For others already receiving benefits, the concern is whether these new standards could be applied to continuing disability reviews, potentially putting existing benefits at risk. The administration hasn't been completely transparent about all the details yet, which frankly makes this even more concerning because people deserve to know exactly how policy changes will impact their lives. So why is this happening now? What's driving this proposal? The stated concern from the administration is about the long-term financial sustainability of the Social Security Disability Program, and concerns about whether the current system is too easy to qualify for. There's also been ongoing political pressure from certain quarters arguing that disability benefits have expanded too much and that some people receiving benefits could actually work. But here's what critics of this proposal are saying, and it's worth paying attention to. They argue that the disability system is already incredibly difficult to navigate. The majority of initial applications get denied. People wait months or years for hearings. The medical requirements are stringent. And the benefits themselves are modest, averaging around $1,400 per month. This isn't a system where people are getting rich or living comfortably. It's a basic safety net for people who genuinely cannot work. Let's talk about who gets hurt most if these changes go through. We're primarily talking about people in their 50s and early 60s who've spent their lives doing physical labor. Think about factory workers, construction workers, warehouse employees, nurses, home health aides, truck drivers. These are people whose bodies have been worn down by decades of hard work, who often don't have college degrees or easily transferable skills, and who face very real age discrimination in the job market even when they're healthy. Now imagine you're 53 years old, you've worked in manufacturing your whole life, you've developed severe arthritis and chronic pain conditions, you have a high school education, and suddenly you cannot physically do your job anymore. Under the current system, Social Security would likely recognize that asking you to completely retrain for sedentary work at your age, with your limitations and background, is unrealistic. Under the proposed system, they might just say you're not old enough for age to matter, find a different job, application denied. And we can't ignore the broader context here either. This proposal would effectively raise the bar for workers in their 50s and 60s who face chronic illness or long-term injury. This comes at a time when Americans are already working longer before they can claim full Social Security retirement benefits. Healthcare costs keep rising. Savings rates for many Americans are inadequate. And age discrimination in hiring is well documented, even if it's illegal. We're creating a situation where people who are too sick or injured to continue their long-time careers, but who aren't yet old enough for Social Security retirement, could find themselves falling through the cracks with nowhere to turn. Now, I want to be fair and mention that the White House has stated that President Trump will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits. However, changing eligibility rules for who qualifies for disability in the first place is different from cutting benefits for people who already have them, even though the practical effect for applicants is essentially the same. If you can't qualify for benefits because the eligibility rules changed, you're not technically having your benefits cut, you're just being denied access to them in the first place. It's an important distinction that doesn't make the situation any less serious for the people affected. What can you actually do about this? First, if you're currently receiving disability benefits, you need to stay informed about any changes to continuing disability reviews. Make sure you respond promptly to any requests from Social Security, and keep detailed medical documentation of your ongoing conditions. If you're thinking about applying for disability, or you're in the middle of an application process, you might want to consult with a disability attorney who can help you understand how any rule changes might affect your case and what your options are. These attorneys typically work on contingency, meaning they only get paid if you win your case, so initial consultations are often free. Second, and this is important, if you feel strongly about this issue one way or another, contact your representatives in Congress. Policy changes like this don't happen in a vacuum. Congressional oversight matters, public pressure matters, and elected officials need to hear from constituents about how these changes would affect real people's lives. You can find your senators and representatives through a simple online search, and many of them have web forms where you can submit your concerns directly. Third, organizations that advocate for disability rights and Social Security recipients are paying close attention to this proposal. Groups like the National Organization of Social Security Claimants Representatives, AARP, and various disability advocacy organizations are monitoring these developments and organizing responses. Following these organizations and adding your voice to their efforts can help amplify the concerns of people who would be affected by these changes. Here's the bottom line that I need you to understand. This proposal is still in development, which means nothing is set in stone yet, but it also means this is the time when public awareness and pressure can actually make a difference. Once rules are finalized and implemented, it becomes much harder to change course. The disability system exists because we as a society recognize that some people, through no fault of their own, cannot sustain employment due to medical conditions, and they deserve basic financial support to survive. Age has always been part of that equation because it reflects the reality of how aging bodies work, how the job market works, and how retraining opportunities work. Removing or minimizing age as a factor doesn't change those realities. It just makes it harder for people dealing with those realities to access help. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think age should continue to be a significant factor in disability determinations? If you or someone you know has been through the disability application process, what was that experience like? And do you think the system needs to be made stricter, or should we be concerned about making it too difficult for people who genuinely need help? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because these conversations matter, and your perspective matters. If this video helped you understand what's potentially coming with disability benefits, please hit that like button and share this with anyone else who needs to know about these proposed changes.